welcome, Dr. Luis. Thank you for joining us today, and it's a pleasure to have you. And thank you for joining us all the way from Brazil.
No, thank you for the inviting. I'm more than happy to help you with what I can do.
Can you tell us about your journey? How did you land up in the UAE?
Yeah, my journey in UAE started in 2021,
Uh-huh.
and I was invited to work in a private clinic inside of the Bipolar Club. And we used to work there for 2 years and a half, 3 years, if I'm not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because of market reasons, the owner decided to close the clinic, and then they invited me to go to be part of the team of this new hospital that it's been building in Abu Dhabi.
Uh-huh.
And I am living in Abu Dhabi right now for 1 year, almost 1 year and a half.
Wow. So you're new to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. It's a huge difference from Dubai,
Yes.
but it's nice. It's very nice. It's a nice place to live.
It is. It is. Now, what should trainers know about myostatin? If you could tell us a little bit about, how this has an impact.
Yeah, it's more the impact of this kind of genetic testings right now. It's more for the whole industry of racing in the world, because basically the myostatin, it's a protein,
Mm-hmm.
and it's regulated by a gene in the code of the horses. Actually, it's not only in the horses; it's for all kind of human being. I don't know if it's human beings, but all species we have this protein,
Mm-hmm.
and it's regulated by a gene. And
Mm-hmm.
now we know that from horses, as the papers are showing, we can have a prediction for the ability of the horse, and for mainly for shorter, mid, and long distance at the races.
Mm-hmm.
So for the trainers, what can help, it will helpful because they can have a better training program.
Mm-hmm.
And for the industry right now, they can have a better expectation of what kind of ability this horse it's gonna show related to the distance of the races.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it's gonna give us an idea, a better idea of the ability of the horses according to the distance of the races.
And do you think trainers should test for this?
Actually, it's we can do the test at any age.
Okay.
So since the foal it's born, we can do the test in the first few days of life,
Mm-hmm.
or we can do it later. It will not change the expression of the gene, the age of the horse. So what it's going on right now, it's not a huge practice right now, but we know
Mm-hmm.
that some breeders and some buyers, they are doing the test to have a better expectation according with the pedigree, according with the blood side, the bloodline,
Mm-hmm.
and in association with the gene expression.
Mm-hmm.
So they are having a better format of the ability of the horse for the future races. But this, it's not the main reason, it's not the main objective right now, because we have a lot of other factors involved in the breeding and in the trainment of racehorses.
If supposing now you have a horse which is showing that he's a fast horse, so he's a sprinter horse, and you have another horse which is also showing that he's a sprint horse, are you able to compare based on this gene, based on this protein, who will be faster? Is that predictable, or is it only that this is going to be a sprinter, this is going to be mid distance, this is going to be long distance, and then
No, listen,
everything?
we can have a better idea according with the expression of this gene. We have basically three different type of expression of the genes that will show us that the horse is a sprinter, a mid-distance horse, or a stamina horse. But it will depend, of course. I like to say this to all my clients and my students when I used to give some classes. Biology, it's not mathematics. So in biology, 2 plus 2, it's not going to be the same number all the time. But a gene, it's a gene. It's going to show the expression and the ability of the horse for some kind of, in this case, for the distance of the prediction distance for him, for the horses. So yes, we can have a better idea with the genetic test, but it's not gonna be 100% sure that we are gonna have a sprinter or a long distance horses.
Right. And within that, you won't be able to compare more. That is based on bloodlines.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna trust more in the genetic expression. But the bloodline, it's the main reason right now of all the breeding industry all over the world. So, in my opinion, if I'm gonna say, if I have for my clients, for example, if they want to do the genetic test, I'm gonna say yes, you can do it, but we are not gonna trust 100% on that. We need to listen the trainers, we need to listen the riders. And we need to listen the horse. We need to see how is the conformation, the morphophysiology of the horse. There is a lot of factors impacting in the career of the horse.
What advice would you give to, say, bloodstock agents and owners who might look at doing some genetic testing before they purchase something, when they have shortlisted the horses?
Yeah, we have a lot of it's not a problems, but we have a lot of factors involved in the sales of the horses. First of all, we need to think who is gonna pay for this test.
Right.
The buyer, the sellers, they are gonna provide as a pre-purchase examination, for example. It's not a cheap test.
Right.
So, and nowadays we have a discussion in the horse industry about some breeders, they think that this kind of test can cause some problems because we are gonna restrict the genetic ability of horses. For example, if you have a horse, it's not a grade 1 horse, but it's gonna be your stallion in your farm. The genetic test can predispose some buyers or bloodstock agents to not buy your horse because they are gonna look, of course, for the best genetic expression in the market.
Right, correct.
So in the future, we are gonna have some genetic problems because we are gonna be inside of a funnel. We are gonna, of course, we are gonna try to search for the best for my interest, and this could be a huge problem in the future. So, yes, I think it's a useful tool nowadays, and if we can do it, if the owners, the buyers, or the sellers, it's a good discussion right now. It's gonna be good to do it, but again, it's not the principal tool that we are gonna have to choose a horse for our clients. Yeah.
What about the training, once the test is performed, do you think that the trainers will change their training techniques based on this?
Post, no. No. I'm not seeing, to be honest, no. They are not changing the way of trainment based on the genetic expression of the MSTN, for example. At least my clients are not doing this.
Right.
But makes sense, because if you know the ability of the horse based on genetic expression, even if it's not 100% sure that we are going to achieve this kind of ability, makes sense to do specific trainments for this kind of expression. But actually, nowadays, I'm not seeing trainers using these tools or this information to change the way that they are training the horses. Basically, nowadays, we are still using the ability, not the ability, but the expectation based on the pedigree of the horses. And by the feeling of the trainers during the evolution of the trainment of these horses. So they are trying to see the ability of the horses during the trainment to predict the races that these horses are going to be entering in the future.
What about from a recovery period, when you have, because I guess myostatin is responsible for the growth of the muscle. So by knowing this information, will you be able to improve the way you train a horse's muscle from recovery and training periods, those kinds of things? Is that something that today trainers look at or can look at? Or is it too still far away?
It depends. It will depends of the expectation of the horse. If it's a horse with a high expectation, for example, for the Triple Crowns or for the 2000 Guineas, of course they are gonna have a very well planned the career of these horses. But if we are talking about horses with very low expectations, a horse stayed inside of the stall, it's waste of money. So, of course, they are going to try to deal with this situation in the better way as possible, but it's going to be different the way that you are going to deal with a grade 1 horse for a maiden or a claiming horse all over the world.
Yeah.
We know it, for example, in some countries here in South America, the average of races of these horses, it's 22 races per month.
Wow.
Yes, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Yeah. And of course, in United States, we are seeing horses, grade 1 winners. The career of these horses, it's 6, 7 races during his lives.
Yes.
And the most important in all these things is trainment of horses. It's a matter of balance, of load and rest. Because it's not only the recovery of the muscles. We need to think that it's all young horses, most of the time, very young horses. And they are growing during their careers. And we need to balance this load of exercise with the appropriate time of rest to avoid a lot of other problems. And this is based on the feeling of the trainer and with the opinion of a good vet working with these trainers.
Makes sense. So you think that with the good veterinary doctor who is able to give the right kind of advice based on his profile, based on the horse's profile, you are able to then come up with a training plan which is optimal for the horse to get less injury, operate well, win races.
Now we are talking about the ideal world.
Yes.
It's a team job. It's a team job, 100%.
Perfect job.
Yeah, we need to talk with our trainers. We need to talk with our grooms because they are with the horses 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
They know the horses better than anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's a team job. It's the ideal situation. Most of the trainers right now, they are working with their vets in a balanced way. They are changing their opinions. No, you need to decrease a little bit the load of exercise for the horse. Otherwise, we are going to start to have some problems. This is the ideal scenario for the athletic life of a horse. But we know that some trainers, they don't have their own vets. They are asking for the vets to go to their stables only when they are seeing a problem.
Yeah.
And in these situations, it's very complicated because as I used to talk with my trainers and my owners, we are not magicians. We are only vets. So, and sometimes they are asking for a magic situation, and we are not gods.
True.
But it's the ideal scenario. The vet must be closest to the trainer, to the grooms, to the owners, and they need to have their opinion listened. We are there to help them.
Yeah, absolutely right. People don't listen. That's the problem.
Yeah, sometimes they are not listening us, or they are only asking us to check a horse when sometimes it's too late.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. Now, the last question I have for you is, what are the other genetic markers which are either already in use or going to be in use that is going to revolutionize the training? Like this protein, something people probably didn't know about. Now, what else is new?
Again, we have some researches being done all over the world in the genetic sequence of the horses. It's not an old practice. It's very new in the horse industry. And we are talking in about 20 years ago. And for all kind of researches, we need to have time, and we need to have because it's easy to do a paper or a research, but we need to know the practice of these findings in the papers in our professional lives, in the track or at the races. And it takes time, so it's not easy. But we know that they are doing right now some researches with some genes for to check the ability of the energetic metabolism of the horses, the way that these horses are converting the nutrition or the nutrients or the oxygen in a most effective way for the exercise. And we have some researches being done right now with this situation. And we have another job, if I'm not wrong, dealing with the gene responsible for the aerobic capacity of the horse.
All right.
When I am talking about aerobic capacity, it's the ability of the horse to use the oxygen intaked by the breathing and convert this oxygen in energy. So, for example, in the quarter horse flat races, it's very common for us to listen in trainers and the people involved in the quarter horse industry saying that the horses in shorter distances, they are not breathing during the race.
Oh.
And yes, because it's like Usain Bolt, for example. But the truth in this situation is sometimes they are breathing with less movements during the races. This is true. But in shorter distances, we have another type of production of energy without oxygen. We call this anaerobic pathway. And so the horses, they have the ability to run for 400 meters, for example, without consumption of oxygen. And nowadays they are showing that some genes are able to some modifications of the genes are showing that horses, they have more ability to run without oxygen than other ones. And for shorter distances, for example, this is amazing because it's the way that the horse it's gonna run for shorter distance. They are gonna breathe in a very low frequency, and of course we are gonna increase their performance. And this is another discussion all over the world right now because we know nowadays that we have some ways. For example, talking about myostatin, we have some ways because the myostatin, it's the protein that will define how much muscles a horse is gonna have. Yes. If we have more myostatin in the body, we are gonna have less muscle mass.
Yeah.
And nowadays they are trying to do the gene doping. So they are trying to use external ways to block this kind of protein in the body, and the horse it's gonna have more muscle mass in the body. This is another discussion nowadays. They are trying. It's not allowed. We have a regulation right now all over the world regarding gene therapy. It's a very big concern for the authorities, for International Federation of Horse Racing Authorities, for example. And they are trying to avoid as much as possible. And yes, they are doing a lot of researches in the expression of genes related with the increase of performances right now.
It sounds like a very, very busy field.
Yes, it is. It is, and it's a very expensive field too. So that's why the researches are being done by universities all over the world, most of the time funded by the government or for the authorities, because we need to know what is going on, how is the changes that it can of this genetic therapy can produce, because we need to avoid as much as possible to keep the integrity of the sport.
Makes sense. Makes exact sense. And with that, I really appreciate the time that you gave us to do this interview. And I'm hoping that we can talk to you more about not just this topic, but a few other topics over the next few weeks.
I'm more than happy to help you.